Hi everyone, I'm Cody. I'm a marketing specialist here at QNAP, and I'm here with our product manager, Deval.
Good morning, everybody.
And today we're really excited to share with you guys about our new Wi-Fi 6 SD router QHora. So taking a look here at the agenda, you can see in our first section, we'll be covering the QHora router, including its Wi-Fi 6 capability, an overview of the hardware, as well as the 10 gigabit connectivity. And we'll then present a demo of the QHora, followed by the second portion of our webinar focused on our SD-WAN solution, where we'll go over our SD-WAN app, QuWAN, reasons why businesses are using SD-WAN, as well as a demo of our SD-WAN solution. So what is QHora? QHora is our brand new Wi-Fi 6 SD-WAN router. It supports much faster Wi-Fi connectivity, flexible network deployment with both 10 gigabit and single gigabit Ethernet connections, either of which can support LAN or WAN connections, and site-to-site VPN deployment with built-in SD-WAN capability. So what's so special about Wi-Fi 6 versus previous standards, such as Wi-Fi 5? Well, for one thing, there's a substantial boost in terms of throughput, with up to 1,200 megabits per second per device. This is 1.38 times faster than the previous Wi-Fi generation, Wi-Fi 5, and it's actually a higher theoretical max than a typical plugged-in single gigabit Ethernet connection as well. And it just imagine getting a faster connection to the router over Wi-Fi than through a wired Ethernet connection. And while your ISP may be your primary bottleneck in terms of throughput over the internet, I could say that I've definitely experienced a measurable impact in latency connecting over Wi-Fi versus a wired connection in the past. So it's really exciting to see this type of speed available through Wi-Fi. Additionally, you'll likely notice better connection on the outskirts of your Wi-Fi range, because while Wi-Fi 6 is not technically giving more range, with the increased general speed, that will translate to increased speeds on the outer limit of your connection as well. And Wi-Fi 6 also supports dual band connectivity with both the 2.4 gigahertz connection and the 5 gigahertz connection. So 2.4 gigahertz being ideal for longer range, while 5 gigahertz supports the higher speeds, but when you're in a closer range. Additionally, the integration of OFDMA for Wi-Fi 6 facilitates a more efficient flow of network traffic, especially when connecting numerous devices with various bandwidth requirements, such as IoT appliances. By using OFDMA and MU-MIMO, multiple sets of devices can transmit data at the same time, thereby improving the network efficiency, and it reduces the connection delay. Without MU-MIMO, Wi-Fi has a single lane where all of the data is transmitted, so you may experience a slower network connection as it needs to queue packets if you have multiple devices connecting. But with MU-MIMO, the router, it opens multiple lanes, so you have multiple connections going, and the Wi-Fi can handle more traffic. And OFDMA it's kind of like carpooling. So a single transmission of Wi-Fi will be able to handle multiple packets, so you'll get a faster response from your Wi-Fi. So next, we're going to take a little look at the hardware specs of the QHora. Ethernet port wise, it includes 4 single gigabit and 2 10 gigabit ports. It has 8 internal 5 dBi antennas. It's running a Qualcomm IPQ8072A Hawkeye 2 processor, and this is Qualcomm's processor geared for routers and switches. It also includes a gigabyte of RAM to support multiple connections and appliances or applications and things, and it also has 4 gigabytes of eMMC flash storage for things like QVPN and QWAN applications. And as mentioned before, this will include the dual band connections of both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. And in terms of mounting, there are third-party options for wall mounts, table mounts, and pole mounts. The design is fanless, utilizing an efficient ventilated design to maintain cool system temperature without unnecessary noise. And this router will be able to support a max of 30 SD-WAN VPN tunnels. So here's a layout of the actual unit. You can see the 4 Ethernet ports, and also ports 1 and 2 can be configured to connect to a WAN. Additionally, there are 2 10 gigabit ports here, and you can see the highlighted one on the left can be configured for a WAN as well. This unit also includes a reset button, WPS, power switch, and takes a 12-volt DC input. On the front, you can see the various indicator lights to easily give the status of things like power, connectivity, and Wi-Fi. So here you can you can see a display of the ventilation design that we've implemented for QHora. This enables us to forego the use of a fan, so while still maintaining a cool temperature to ensure smooth and reliable operation, it's still going to leave out the fan. It'll help us to minimize the noise level generated by the router. So you can basically put this anywhere and not worry about being bothered by excessive noise. And here you can see the 8 internal antennas that we built into this model. There are 5 dBi antennas, and 4 of them are dedicated to the 2.4 gigahertz band, and 4 are dedicated to the 5 gigahertz band. And as mentioned earlier, this router does include dual 10 gigabit connectivity. So one of these 10 gigabit ports is available for a WAN connection, and these ports can also be used to establish a 10 gigabit LAN network as well. This is great for those requiring high throughput options to transfer large files. And we also manufacture numerous 10 gigabit NAS to create a high-speed storage solution as well. And additionally, we have multiple 10 gigabit switches available to connect multiple 10 gigabit devices. So with that, Deval is going to demo for us the QHora, so we can see this in action. And then he'll be presenting some of the SD-WAN functionality.
Thank you very much, Cody. Let me make myself present. All right. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. So good morning, everybody. My name is Deval. I'm the product manager here at QNAP. And today I'll be demoing our new QHora 301W router. And it's a wireless Wi-Fi 6 router. So I'm already logged into. I'm already at the login page. So this is what you're going to be seeing at the login page. So So there are 2 ways to log into the QHora device. The first one would be your admin username and password that you can get when you set up your router. So you have the admin and your password. Default password would be your MAC address. Or whatever you change. So that's one way to log in. But if you want to join this under your QNAP Cloud account, then all you have to do is just log in with your QNAP Cloud email address and the password for QNAP Cloud and enter, and that's the way you can link it to your QNAP Cloud account. So this is so I'm logged in right now, and with my QNAP Cloud, it's the same interface you're going to be able to see on both both logins. So there's not much of a difference, but what you can get is this will be linked to your QNAP Cloud. So so here's the dashboard of the QHora 301W router. Okay, quickly you can get an overview of how your device is working. Is it healthy? If there's any temperature issues, is any firmware updates available? Your connection status, your internet is up and running. If there's any problems with our internet or your router itself, or how many clients are connected. you can see your WAN interface IP address, so and the traffic as well for that device. So quickly get information about what's going on with your network without having to dig deep in the menu settings. The other settings you can look at is your wireless wireless settings as well. You can quickly check the password, and then you can share that as well. So that's how you can get on the dashboard. I'm going to quickly go to clients. This is where you're going to be able to see how many clients are connected. You can quickly block them as well. Just to block a client, just click on block and then just block on a particular VLAN or just block the client altogether. You can also check how many clients are being blocked. You can also manually block clients with its MAC address. On that, if you have multiple VLANs, you can also do it on multiple VLANs as well. So that's how we can see the client's IP address. How are they connected? Are they connected via Ethernet? If they're using Wi-Fi, what kind of band are they using? 5 gigahertz band or 2.5 gigahertz band? The MAC address, the IP address. You can check all of that here through the client settings. On the network, you can go to port definition. Port definition gives you information about what is your LAN port, because remember, your QNAP doesn't specify which LAN port you're going to be using. By default, when you first set up your router, the port 1 of that particular router is your WAN port. So when you go through the setup, it will ask you to plug in a WAN cable through WAN port 1, and that's your WAN port by default. If you do not change it, that will always be a WAN port. But again, as we mentioned, we do support multiple WAN ports, or you can also have one of the 10 gigabit WAN ports. So to change that in configuration, you click on this button, and then you can either change it to WAN port, 10 gigabit WAN port, 10 gigabit port 1 as your WAN port. So port 1 will be a WAN port, and that will be a 10 gigabit port. So now you can have up to 10 gigabit of WAN connection as well. Or you can actually set up a port trunk between port 1 and 2. So you can set up port 1 and 2 to be your WAN port. So if you have multiple ISPs, you can also set up, if you have 2 connections from same ISPs, or you have multiple ISPs, you can use that as dual WAN port. And what will happen is that it will give you better speeds, because if under load, the QNAP will use both ISPs to give you better speeds, or if one of the ISPs goes down, the QNAP will automatically route traffic through the other WAN port, so your connections are still maintained. All right, so that's how you can set up your WAN ports as well. And then here you can check what type of connections are they, what kind of link speeds are they 1 gigabit, 10 gigabit. So have a NAS connected to one of the 10 gigabit port. You can actually see it's connected, it's linking at 10 gigabit connection. You can also change the access mode. You can also have access mode or trunk mode. Access mode is basically just if you have a single VLAN connection, you can set up as access mode. But if you have multiple VLANs, you can also do it as trunk mode as well on those ports. And again, you can also click on the WAN connection. This gives you information about your WAN, your current information about what kind of mode, if it's static IP or DHCP, IP address, traffic of your WAN connection. LAN port just gives you information about your LAN IPs. Again, so IP address, this won't give you the client's IP. This gives you the IP address of your router, because again, this is all the connections, because you can also connect a switch here and have multiple computers connected. So this doesn't give you the information. This only gives you a default gateway here. If you want to check the client's IP, you have to click on the client's button right here. Again, so just to give you basic information, this gives you status information about are they connected or not connected. So that's your LAN connection. VLAN just gives you information about your VLAN configuration. By default, the default VLAN, which is the VLAN 1, and then the guest VLAN, which is 4094. You can also, this is where you can change your LAN IP address as well. By default, QNAP gives you, the QNAP out of the box is 192.168.100.1 100.1 address. You can come here and change it to something else. You can set up as VLAN, or you can change your fixed the LAN IP to be. I have set mine to be as 200.1. You can set your DHCP servers leasing information, as well as your range for DHCP server and your DNS server. You can also reserve your devices right here as well, with your device name, IP address, and MAC address. So quickly change all that information here. This is where you can also change your LAN's IP address as well. Okay. And then routing, this is where you can see your routing information. You can also set up your static routing as well from the routing page. Wireless and virtual access point, this is where you can set up your wireless settings as well. And right here, you can also set up multiple wireless on different VLANs as well. So if you have multiple wireless groups that you can set up, and then those can be on different VLANs. So you can set your VLAN right here to be on different VLANs. So you can have multiple VLANs, like VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and those wireless groups can be on different VLANs. So you can have different SSIDs for different VLANs. So right here, I have my main SSID, which is DP QHora. That's my main wireless group, and then I can have another wireless group as QHora 30174A6, and another VLAN wireless group as A6_3. So you can actually have up to 3 VLAN groups as well on wireless devices. So your wireless devices can also be on a different VLAN connection as well. So that's another great way to set up your device. You can set up you can also have Smart Connect. So QHora can also support Smart Connect. Smart Connect allows you to do is you can have one SSID for your 2.4 gigahertz band as well as 5 gigahertz band. So when your clients connect, depending upon your client's hardware, you can either connect to 5 gigahertz or 2.5 gigahertz. And the QNAP will broadcast both bands on the single SSID. And the clients the compatible clients, because not all clients are compatible with 5 gigahertz, especially smart home devices. Many smart home devices like IP cameras or Wi-Fi bulbs, they're not 5 gigahertz 5 gigahertz compatible. They're only 2.4 gigahertz compatible. So with Smart Connect, those smart devices can connect to 2.4 gigahertz, and your newer devices like your iPhones, your Android phones, your new computers, they can all connect to 5 gigahertz automatically using the same SSID. Or you can go with what I have done here is have 2 different SSIDs, one for 2.4 gigahertz and one for 5 gigahertz, and you can connect those devices using those SSIDs. So that's another great option that QHora gives you. You can also change your this is where you can change your SSID as well as your VLAN ID group. You can also change your security method as well. You can also enable wireless scheduler. So this is great for kids in case you can turn off Wi-Fi completely during certain times or during certain days, and then enable and automatically enables during the certain times of the day as well. So again, for especially for kids, they can at night the Wi-Fi will just disconnect for them, and then during the day it'll reconnect. So that's another option as well. We also support 802.11r fast roaming. This is if you have multiple access points. QNAP can pre-authorize those your clients, so they can roam around. And if the client gets out of range of one of the access points, QNAP, that client can automatically connect to the other access point with a stronger signal. It's kind of mesh networking, but it's not mesh networking. This is just fast roaming. So again, this is only if you have multiple access points as well. And you can also set up advanced band settings. This is where you can enable band steering. So this is where it will automatically connect to the correct band. Enable MU-MIMO for multiple clients. You can also set up your transmission power. If you want to have high transmission power, so you can go longer distances, you can also do that as well. You can also change DFS channel. You can also change megahertz for your bandwidth. Right now, if you notice, it's only 20, 40, and 80 megahertz band. The QHora does support 160, but it'll come as a firmware update in sometime in January of 2021. So to a firmware update, you will also get an access to 160 megahertz channel as well. So it will come as a firmware update next year. You can also enable DFS channel for extra channel as well. It depends upon region you're in. Some regions don't support DFS channel; they're locked in. So the QNAP just won't give you the access to those. Your clients won't be able to connect to those DFS channels. But if you're in the United States or Canada, you should be able to connect to a DFS channel. And if you have enabled that, you can get access to extra channels. So in congested area with DFS channel, it'll give you better performance because not all clients, not other wireless devices or routers do support DFS channels. So you have access to those rare channels where the congestion is less. You also set up CTS or RTS as well for you can also set up preamble time bandwidth for 2.4 gigahertz as well. So your advanced band settings are right here under advanced band settings. That's for your wireless devices. You can also change access. You can enable disable guest access and set up passwords and security for them. We also support WPS. You can enable WPS and select what wireless automatically it should connect to. Again, to enable WPS, just enable this button. Go to your client, connect to the wireless channel. When it's asking for a password, come back to the router, and then press and hold the WPS button on the back for about 3 seconds, and the router will beep. And once it's beeped, you can go back to the client, and the client should be connected or should be trying to connect to the wireless SSID that you have connected right here. You can also set up firewall rules right here. Looks like I'm having some issues. I got disconnected from Wi-Fi. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. I should have changed WPS. When you change WPS, it does restart your Wi-Fi connection, and I think that's what the problem is. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. All right, so I shouldn't have changed Wi-Fi settings when I'm still connected to Wi-Fi. So, all right, going back to WPS. So that's how you can change your WPS settings. Next would be your firewall settings. You can set up firewall on your router. And you can add firewall rules as well. You can define the source where it's an IP address or LAN interface. You can also define destination. You can allow them or deny them by domain name or IP address. That's how easy it is to set up a firewall rule on the QHora router. We also support NAT. So if you have application layer gateway as well, so if you're using any application like FTP, BBTP, or SIP applications for multimedia connections, you can also enable application layer gateway. So if you're using these applications, you can enable these applications so it's able to connect to those, and it won't block those applications. It's more compatible with those applications as well. For port forwarding, you can also enable port forwarding as well. To add a rule, you just click on add rule. You can enable what port you want to open up for. 8080 for QNAP routers. I enter the IP address of the QNAP router that you have. And then you can change the LAN service port as well. So 8080. If you have different LAN port, you can also set up. If you have multiple devices, like if you have multiple QNAP NASs in the network, you cannot have same WAN port and then over the internet, because if it's 8080 on the LAN port, you can actually set the QNAP 1 to 8081 for WAN port and 8080 internally. For the second QNAP, you can set up as 8080 for the WAN and also 8080 alone. So you can have different WAN port and LAN ports as well. You can set up. You can only allow certain IP addresses for remote connection, and then description just name your port forwarding. So you can also set up what protocol you want to use it as, TCP or ADA or UDP, and this is how easy it is to open a port. You can once you open the port, you can either disable them if you want to quickly disable port forwarding, or enable them as well. So this particular firmware also supports UPnP. You can enable UPnP and select the WAN port, and then so QNAP routers that QNAP NASs that can automatically open port, they can quickly connect. You can automatically open the port without you needing to have access to that. So again, you can also set up UPnP. We also support QVPN. This is a QVPN server part, so you can only connect to the QHora as a client. The QHora doesn't connect to another VPN service, but you can create a VPN for you. You can set up QBEL, LTTP, or OpenVPN. Once you connect it, you can see the connected clients that are there, the client list. You have to create a new username and password for VPN connections to come in. And then logs just gives you information about who's connecting at what time, and what device are they using to connect as well. Parental controls gives information about Like you can set up parental control with this device. You can add a role. You can enable website filtering, so you can disable YouTube or Facebook to be able to connect. You can also enable safe search for adult content, so you can disable them from the search to come up as well. You can, for YouTube, Google, and Bing, we do support that as well. And once you apply them, you can add devices to it as well. You can add which device you want to have it. So your kid's device can have parental control. You can disable them to access certain websites or access adult mature contents to be able to search as well. So you can do that using parental control on the QNAP. Under system, just gives you operation mode. You can set this into two operation modes. One is wireless router mode, which basically is your main wireless router in the network, or access point. If you have another wireless device, you can set up this as an access point, and it will connect as an access point to that router. Event log just gives you information about your events for that. What changes are you doing to the router, or what changes are what's going on? Did the firmware update happen? Did it restart? Whatever changes you have done, this is again another troubleshooting method you can use as an event log. System settings gives you information about naming your device, restart, backup, or reset your router. So you can reset from here. You can reset your router, and you can back up your configuration. And because there's a beeping, you can also turn off or turn on the beeping, and this is what each of the beeps would mean on the router as well. USB settings, which gives you information about access control, which is where you can control your username and password for the router. You can change the password for the router. And access mode, you can also control if you want to access this device through remotely, and you can also disable the website completely by turning off the local management. And this way you can access the device via HTTP protocol, but you can access it via HTTPS only. So you can do that here as well. On the USB setting, because this able to connect, you can connect external hard drives to the router. Once you connect that, you can enable the FTP server part of it, so you can access the device using the FTP server. And you can add the FTP server right here, and then those will be able. So once you connect your external hard drive to the QNAP, you can access it via FTP server. And the file systems we support is FAT16, 32, ext4, ext3, and ext2 external hard drive as well. We can also access it externally or internally using the IP address. Firmware update, again, this you can schedule your firmware updates, or you can manually update firmware. You can live update it currently as well. So this is how you can update firmware on the QHora router. So that will be it for the demo. The QWAN part of it I'll do that through the next demo. Okay, so let me give this back to Cody.
All right. All right, hey guys, thank you, Duval. So we'll be Duval will be showing us some of the QWAN features as well on these slides here.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much, Cody. So QWAN is okay. So what is QWAN? First of all, QWAN is a QNAP's complete SD-WAN solution that provides simple, fast, and efficient network connection over the internet. You can quickly build a secure multi-site mesh VPN network, and you can also manage it via the cloud. So if you have multiple sites that you manage, and you want to have them, you want to have it in a local area network, you can actually set up multiple. You can set up an SD-WAN network. What SD-WAN allows you to do is you can have mesh VPN network connection between all those sites, and as if you are in the same network. So you don't need to open ports for local like FTP ports or anything like that. Or if you want to access your file server remotely as well, so you can have file server on site A. You can also access the site those file server from site B as well without using a local access protocol like Samba, NFS, or FTP, without having to use VPN connection. So all your devices within that particular site will be able to connect to the other site without having to set up VPN on those single devices. So without SD-WAN, let's say if you have a NAS connected to site A, and you want to have users from site B connect to the NAS on site A. You have to first set up a VPN server on site A, and then on each single client on site B, you have to set up VPN on the Windows computers or Mac computers. And once those clients connect to site A's VPN server, then they can access the file server or the NAS from site A. But with SD-WAN, you can set up a QHora on site A and then QHora on site B, set up an SD-WAN network between those, and the QNAP will create a mesh VPN between those two sites. And all those clients that are connected, they're connected to QHora on site B, they can automatically access the NAS from site A without having to set up any VPN services on their computers. They can immediately connect to site A without having to change anything on their computer. Because the QHora is the one that's connecting to site A using VPN, it automatically connects. Okay, so the next is, what are some major features for QUWAN? QUWAN is, again, it's an auto mesh VPN network between sites. It's WAN optimization. So if you have multiple ISPs, you can connect them to QHora, and the QUWAN will benefit them, will use both ISPs to give you better performance, or in case of one of the ISPs goes down, QNAP will switch over to the other ISP, and all your devices and your VPN network is still online and going. There's also cloud management for checking status and troubleshooting. For IT admins, you can access your SD-WAN remotely using using the orchestrator website, and then you can troubleshoot them. You can check statuses of all your devices are connected or not, or if there's any problems on any of the sites, you can troubleshoot them remotely as well. It's also a subscription-free, cost optimized as well, because if you notice, most of the SD-WAN network, or all of them actually right now, is subscription-based. But with QNAP SD-WAN, it's all subscription fee, so you don't have to pay any monthly fee to QNAP to use the service. All you need is QNAP devices. You can actually have QHora, or you can actually set up an SD-WAN and a NAS as well. Okay, with QUWAN application, you can set up an SD-WAN on your NAS and then connect, and you can create your own SD-WAN network. And if you, as I'm going to show you through the demo, it's very easy to use as well, easy to set up using the web interface. And also we adopted deep packet inspection, or DPI, to analyze layer 7 payloads for content information from websites and devices. You can blacklist specific applications by firewall functions to secure networks. You can use the layer 7 firewall, which is coming soon through a firmware update. Okay, so that's your features and benefits. And with QUWAN, you can have a hub at multiple sites for site-to-site mesh VPN network that has multiple backup paths. So if a site gets disconnected, it won't bring down your network. Because of mesh VPN network, the other sites will still be connected, and the QNAP will start routing through the correct to the correct path, and it will so it won't bring down your network. And also QUWAN, it will create the mesh VPN network automatically. So as long as you connect your hubs, the QNAP will create the mesh network VPN automatically. You don't need to set up your VPN manually. All you have to do is set up your device, enter your credentials for SD-WAN, and the QNAP will do the rest. You don't have to do anything manually. The only thing to remember is, if you want to set up as a hub, you need a public IP address. You cannot have a private IP address to set up as a hub. So QNAP will be your first device within that network. Okay. And the other topology is hub and spoke, which acts as an extension. So if you do not have access to public IP, you can set up as an edge device, and all the data that is transferred from the edge device will go through the hub it's connected to. So let's say if you don't have access to your public IP, but you have access to a private IP behind a router, you can still connect to that SD-WAN network that you have created, but will be an edge device. So an edge device, you can connect to all the devices that are on the different sites, and you'll still be able to connect them using private IP address as well. Okay. To create an SD-WAN, you first need to create an organization where all your devices will be connected. So you create an organization, which I'm going to show you through my QNAP Cloud website. Once you create an organization, then you can select which site it connects to. It's the global domain or which domain it connects to. We have two domain options: global domain or China domain. So you can select one of those two domains, and then lastly, you can select a region. You can create your own region inside the domain, like US region, Canada region, and then you can connect your sites there. Okay. And then for each region, you will have a site with a device acting as a router for QUWAN. So on each of the site within that region, you will have a SD-WAN device. So it could be your NAS or it'll be a QHOR router. So once you connect that to those sites or to those organizations, it will create each device will be a router at that particular region. Okay. Once connected, all the hubs in that organization would create a mesh VPN network automatically. And as I mentioned before, you need a public IP address for setting it up as a hub. And the first device within that SD-WAN will be a hub automatically, and it'll be a primary hub as well. So once all the sites are connected and you have entered all the SD-WAN networking information, the QNAP will automatically create your mesh VPN network between those sites, and you can start communicating between those sites. Okay, and you can either use as I mentioned before, you can either use QHora as your router, as a router for SD-WAN, or actually we also support we also support QUWAN on a NAS, on an existing NAS. If you're an existing NAS, you can actually set up a QUWAN. You can install the SD-WAN software within that particular NAS and as an application. And once installed, that NAS will also act as a router as well as an SD-WAN device as well. And the application is called QUWAN. So you can look up that application and you can start installing and you can start using. So you don't need to purchase a QHora router. You can actually do not have to have a QHora to set up a SD-WAN network. If you have multiple NASs, you can start using them as an SD-WAN device. It will also act as a router for that particular site. Okay, all right. So the next, and again, for QUWAN on a NAS, the NAS requires the NAS has to be an x86 based processor. So only AMD and Intel processors are supported. And also another requirement for QNAP or for SD-WAN or QUWAN is having multiple ports or network ports. So if you have multiple network ports, you can set up an SD-WAN within that particular. So if it's an x86 based processor, like an AMD or Intel processor, and if you have multiple network ports, you can set up an SD-WAN network on your NAS. So one of the network ports will be your WAN port, and the other network port will be your LAN port. So again, so because you only have limited LAN ports, you will have to use a switch. You can use a QNAP switches, or if you have your own switch, you can use that as well. If your QNAP has PCI ports or PCIe slots as well, you can use 10 gigabit ports as well for your LAN or WAN ports. You can have high-speed networking connection depending upon what QNAP you're using. Okay, and I think we missed one more slide. All right, and then lastly, you can manage your SD-WAN via cloud using an orchestrator website, which provides GUI interface for all your devices. You can see geological locations for each devices, and you can get an overview of your connection status of each devices. You can remotely set various parameters such as firewall functions, quality of service functions, and you can also access each of your routers remotely and actually set up more permissions or more settings within that router. And then you can set up Wi-Fi information. You can set up all those information as well. You can also do remote troubleshooting like packet captures, and also IT admins can get notification if one of the sites goes down. If one of the ISPs is having any functions, the IT admin will be notified via email that site A has a problem, so the IT admins can start working on it and get that issue resolved before having any issues. Okay, and so that is it for the slides. We'll quickly start with the demo. All right, so as I mentioned before, to start with the setup first, you have to go to My QNAP Cloud, because you need to set up an organization. So you log in with your email address and password, and you need to go to your profile here, user profile, and then go to organization. I already have an organization, but I'll just quickly show you how to create an organization. So you can click on Create Organization. You can set up your organization name. Select the country, the size of the organization. You can also set up your website information, contact information, and once you create groups. Right now we support as an admin group, so you can create an administrator group, and then you can actually invite other administrators within that particular. So if you have multiple sites, you can set up different QIDs as well. So I can set up another QID, my office QID. I can set up as a group and add them. And once you add them, they'll get a notification to be joining in your organization. So once they join, they can add their NASs as well into your organization for creating an SD-WAN network. Okay, so that's how you can create an organization. Once you create an organization, all you have to do is go to QHora and then go to QuWAN. Okay, so I'm sorry on that information. So once you create an organization, you can just enter your region, which is global region or US region, your site, your device name, and if it's a hub or edge device, and you need to provide information by IP address. So you have to provide your location information. So you can provide your location by locating by IP address, or you can update your GPS coordination automatically. So you can set up one or the other. And that's all you have to do actually. Once this is done, then your multiple QNAPs will be connected to your domain, your hub, and then it will give you information about your VPN setup, if hub to hub is connected or not. So right now I have two devices that are in my organization, my home device and my office device. So I can access my devices from both locations right here. So this is my home device. So this is my office device, which is where I am right now. I can access my devices right here, or I can access my home devices right here as well, without having to do any kind of VPN connection on the QNAP. I can just quickly access all my devices within that network. I'm not connected to any VPN. The only thing I've done is that this particular QNAP is connected to, this particular computer is connected to that QHora, which is connected to the SD-WAN. I can also I can access my file shares as well. I can access it via Samba services, NFS services. You can access all those devices without having to do any kind of VPN setup on my computer. This is all because of my hub-to-hub connection that I have connected. I have two QRs connected right there. So this is how easy it is to set up a hub. But what I'm going to show you is the orchestrator website. To access your QWAN, all you have to do is go to QWAN.QNAP.com. And and then log in with your. So what I've done is I've signed. Log in with your My QNAP Cloud account that I've used to create that SD-WAN network, and then sign in. And right here you will see your information. So you will see how many sites that are connected. Are they connected or not? If they're having any kind of problems, you can quickly get information about that network here. You can see the topology because I only have two devices connected. It's only showing that two devices, and there is a link going between those two devices. That's a VPN link that's connected between those two devices. And then you can click on QWAN device to get more information about each of the device. So you can check your network throughput as well. You can get your live throughput of your network. You can change. I can get live throughput of my home router as well, and you can see what my live throughput would be on my home devices as well. You can check your system status. You can see your CPU usage, your memory usage, all of that information quickly. You can create your traffic reports. You can see what your traffic report is, the connection quality of that particular device. You can quickly get, you can also go past 6 hours, 12 hours. You can create reports as well. You can also check your WAN quality or WAN connection reports as well. You can see what your traffic was during that particular time. You can also check your QuWAN device information about where it's currently connected. You can, what's just where it's currently connected, who is controlling that device. You can already check that information about device information. And the quality of service, as I mentioned, right now it's not coming in. That's not available for your QHora as well as your SD-WAN, but that's coming in as you can see, Q1 of 2021. And you can set up your quality of services as well for your whole SD-WANs. If you have certain applications like if you have certain applications like if you want to prioritize your VoIP calls, or if you want to prioritize your live streaming, you can use quality of service to do that as well. You can also set up static routing as well for your whole SD-WAN. You can set up static routing using your whole SD-WAN network as well. The other setting is, because as I mentioned, this only gives you information about your SD-WAN. But let's say if you want to change something from one of your QHora or one of your routers from a different network, I can just click on QHora setting. And it will go directly to that router using my QNAP cloud. I can log into the router, and this is actually my home router, and I can just quickly change setting. I can see how many devices are connected. I can actually quickly change, again, all that information I can do remotely. I can quickly change my wireless settings. I can change parental control. I can easily set up firewall rules. I can open ports as well. So I don't need to be in that network, or actually I don't need to be in that network as well. Or more so, I don't need to be connected via VPN connection. All I have to do is just go to QuWAN.QNAP.com and then click on QHora setting. I can access all my routers within this website without having to do any kind of port forwarding, or I don't need to open any port. As I mentioned, I don't have to open any ports. I don't need to set up any VPN connection. I don't need to do anything. I just have to go to this website and access all my SD-WAN network as well. You can check your topology settings. You can add regions from here. You can add your devices within that region. Inter-domain link is in case if you have devices, in China and global, you would need an inter-domain link. So inter-domain link will allow you to connect. So you need an MPLS connection between China and global domain, and you need to contact an ISP within China to get that MPLS setup. And once you have the MPLS setup, once you get that information about your MPLS information, you can enter that here, and now you are connected. Your China domain is connected with your global domain, and all your devices can talk to each other between those domains. Without having an MPLS connection with an ISP in China, you cannot communicate with China or any devices within that network. Okay. You can also check. And this is another great feature that really helps in troubleshooting. You can quickly, under IP and subnet information, you can quickly check what IP address setup you have for each of your devices. You can get information about your WAN IP addresses, your local IP addresses. You can quickly check what IP addresses you have, what IP addresses you have set up for each of your regions, as well as each of your routers. You can quickly get that information using the QU. You can get alert information about any problems that you have in the network. You can check event logs for anything, any kind of event logs you have. As I mentioned, you can also check packet capture as well. You can request PCP bundle. You can set up your target and duration, and can do remote packet capture as well. A common configuration, you can do the segmentation for your service classes. So again, this is for QoS in the future, and DP application group. This is also coming in the future for for firewall. So layer 7 firewalls, you can set up that here as well. You can set up that here, and the full feature is coming in, again, in Q1 in 2021. Okay, and then you can do firmware management for updating any firmwares you have remotely for any of the devices. You can update firmwares remotely for all your routers as well as all your devices on the NAS as well. For your NAS, again, as I was mentioning before, you can set up an SD-WAN on your NAS as well. All you have to do is go to App Center and look for QUWAN. And the QUWAN agent is the one that you're going to be using to install an SD-WAN on your network. Okay. When you set up this application, make sure you have a laptop connected directly to one of the ports in that particular NAS, because you'll be using that direct connection to set up your SD-WAN network within that NAS. So again, as I'm mentioning before, you don't need to have a QHora router. You can actually set up your SD-WAN using your NAS as well. All you have to make sure is it's an x86 based processor. It's able to support QUTS Hero or QTS firmwares, and has multiple network ports. That's all you have to configure. Okay, and that is it for SD-WAN. I'm going to give it back to Cody.
All right, thanks, Deval. All right, excellent. And as Deval mentioned earlier, not only can you run the QWAN on the QHora router, but also there are many compatible NASs. A few featured models are the 83XU series, with Xeon processor, the 77XU series, and the 72XU series, as well as the 72XT and 72N. Many of these include high-speed connections, such as 10 gigabit, and very powerful units, and many bays to support even up to hundreds of terabytes of storage as well that can connect to the WAN. But we do typically solve these without the drives in them. So we want to make a big shout out to our sponsor Seagate, who create some great NAS drives. Obviously, you're going to want to have drives that can handle the workload of a NAS rather than, say, a desktop, because your network attached storage unit will typically be running 24/7, and Seagate's IronWolf Pro and IronWolf drives are specifically designed for NAS, and so they're designed to run 24/7, and they're coming in drives as large as 18 terabytes per drive now. So you can support a ton of storage with that. Additionally, they make IronWolf NAS SSDs as well, and we offer many hybrid solutions such as caching or tiering for HDD and SSD solution. And we also have a number of NAS models with M.2 NVMe slots, and IronWolf, the Seagate has you covered with that as well, with their IronWolf NAS NVMe SSDs. Like I mentioned earlier, they're built to run 24/7 and offer warranties up to 5 years, and they implement conventional magnetic recording for random read-write performance, and include 2-year data recovery with IronWolf Pro. So it covers data corruption, user error, viruses, fire, and as well as like natural things such as fire and water damage. And here you can see the a closer look at the SSDs, which are also can come with a 5-year limited warranty and a 2-year data recovery. Obviously, with the SSDs, you don't have the same moving parts as a HDD, so you can minimize noise and vibration in the NAS. And these range from 240 gigabytes in size all the way up to 3.84 terabytes. And so with that, we're going to get into a Q&A time. So I see we already have a few, and we'll be answering those questions for you. And you can just post it under the questions section.
Thank you very much, Cody.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, there are a few questions that we have right here. Is a user is asking, why do you need a 10 gigabit Ethernet on a Wi-Fi 6 router? A 10 gigabit Ethernet allows you to have, let's say, there are a few applications that that 10 gigabit Ethernet can be grateful. Is best case scenario is a NAS, right? If you have a NAS that supports, because we have a lot of NAS that now comes 10 gigabit default, even 2.5 gigabit ports as well. So when you connect that to a 10 gigabit port, you can, if you have multiple users that are trying to get access to the NAS, if you have a file server, if your QHora is on a small business and your NAS is your file server, they can all get high-speed connection, because a 10 gigabit won't saturate when you have multiple connections coming in. Versus if your NAS is connected to 1 gigabit port, and if you have multiple connections, that 1 gigabit will be shared between all those users, basically slowing it down. But with 10 gigabit connection, they won't be saturating when multiple connections have been requesting that information. And because QNAP provides you with 2 10 gigabit ports, you can actually have one connected to the NAS and another one connected to a computer if you're using it for video editing. And you can also do video editing at high-speed connection using the other port. Or you can actually have a switch, one of a QSW 10 gigabit switch connected to the other port of 10 gigabit. I can have multiple editors using editing of the QNAP using QHora. So you don't actually need a specific switch because you have multiple 10 gigabit ports in the QNAP, but you can use that as well. Will UPnP show what ports are connected? Yes, it will show you once you apply to the router. It will show you all the ports that are connected. Another question is, will this be available online? So yes, this video will be available online on our website, on a YouTube page, and it will be uploaded as well. Another question is, will this support mesh networking, mesh Wi-Fi networking? So no, unfortunately, this won't be able to support a mesh Wi-Fi networking. This will be a standalone router for that connection. So this will be a standalone router, and you don't need to have, it won't support mesh networking. And another question is, do you need multiple QHora to set up an SD-WAN network? Again, as I mentioned before, you don't need multiple QHora, or you don't need to have a QHora as well. If you have a NAS that's an x86 based NAS, you can set up multiple NASs. You can set up SD-WAN network with your NAS as well. Now you can also mix and match as well. So if you have QHora on one of the sites and then a NAS on the other side, you can actually set up SD-WAN within that network. Yeah, so again, as I mentioned, so you can actually have QHora on one of the sides. You can actually have NAS on the other sides. You can still set up SD-WAN. So it's all mix and match that you can do for QHora. QHora will be another access point. Okay, QHora is a little bit expensive to be set up as an access point. Right now, there's no such plans to have another access point from QNAP, but what we are planning to do is we are planning to have a mesh Wi-Fi device as a router, and there will be a Wi-Fi 5 router that will be available in the future that you can use it as an access point with QHora. But right now, we don't have only an access point planned. Even the future upcoming product, which is a mesh Wi-Fi networking, will have a node that you can set up as an access point as well. that you can use it with QHora. Any further questions that you guys have? Yeah, one more question is, again, is there any future plan to have it as a subscription based for SD-WAN? No, at this point, there's no plans to put it as a subscription based. So all the features that you see right here is all going to be subscription free. So there's no subscription plan for SD-WAN. It's all going to be subscription free.